Hey guys, I'm Randy Unger, and this is another edition of Unger the Radar, where we talk all things film. And tonight is a very special episode because we're going to talk about the new five-movie Stephen King Blu-ray set. It is a lovely set. It comes out tomorrow, which is September 15th, and basically it's a mixed bag of his some of his works here. We've got in chronological order. We've got The Dead Zone, which came out in 1983, then Silver Bullet, 1985. Then we've got Pet Sematary, the original, which is 1989. This is then followed by the miniseries The Stand, which came out in 1994. And to round out the Blu-ray set is the newest Stephen King adaptation. It's The Pet Sematary that came out last year. So we've got quite a mixed bag of horror here. And also coming up is the Master of Horror's birthday on the 21st of September. So that's special. We have an early gift from the Master of Horror. So let's just jump right in, guys. First of all, I'm not a huge Stephen King enthusiast. This was a sort of an education for me in his works, and I'm glad I got it. I think some of his earlier stuff, like Creepshow, is what comes to mind. Stuff of that nature. He's done a bunch of stuff. Matt, I know you know King's work better than I. So, what are some of your highlights?
Well, I actually started fairly recently, like within the last year. I'm reading all of his books chronological order and then watching all the adaptations. So I did Carrie and then watched Carrie, Rage, the Carrie 2. The sequel came out in 1999. The TV miniseries of Carrie, and then the next remake of Carrie that they did in the 2000s. I did Salem's Lot. Of course, the miniseries Salem's Lot, the Return to Salem's Lot movie that Larry Cohen made, which is just loosely based on it and super weird, and then the Rob Lowe miniseries that came out in the 2000s, and I just finished The Shining, and both the original Kubrick Shining and the miniseries, and now I'm reading Rage, which is has no adaptations and is no longer in print because it's about a school shooter, and it apparently inspired many of the school shooters in the past. So Stephen King took it upon himself to remove it from print.
Okay.
But I would say Salem's Lot may be my favorite book of his that I've read. I've also read a long time ago The Stand and the first three Dark Towers books. As far as films, that's a really tough question. I would have to say, The Shining, even though it is not as true to the book as certain things, it's still like one of the most classic pieces of cinema.
Yeah, agreed. I'm with you on that one. And I think that is my favorite Stephen King film of all time. I definitely need to get to the book at some point. I hear it's a lot scarier than the movie.
The backstory and stuff is interesting. It's a lot about alcoholism. It's just like it's sad and scary.
Okay.
Which a lot of his stuff is. But yeah, and yeah, of course, the last feature film was not Pet Sematary, it was Dr. Sleep.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
That was the last one that came out in theaters.
I kind of blocked that one out because, I was not a fan.
I loved it. I haven't read the book, but I really enjoyed the film.
Okay. Rachel, do you have a favorite Stephen King work or any?
Well, I would say some of the ones that come to mind immediately. Carrie was my introduction to Stephen King.
Hmm.
The book actually was my introduction. I didn't get to see the movie until much later because growing up, I didn't get to see as many scary movies and as many like horror movies. But the book was apparently acceptable for me to pick up from the bookstore. Um, so I would say that that definitely has a special place for me. I actually, during quarantine, read the first Gunslinger book, the first in the Dark Tower series. Um, I also would say The Mist, the adaptation of The Mist, is, I think, very well done. And also changed the ending from the original story.
Hmm.
Which I know that we will get into with Pet Cemetery because the newest remake really diverted from the source material.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like a lot of people also forget that I believe Stand By Me is actually based on
Yeah, The Body,
Stephen
one of
King.
his short stories.
Mm-hmm.
That actually may be my favorite work of his. Stand by
Yeah,
Me, because it's
yeah,
so classic.
One of his few non-horror entries,
I
right?
mean, it's slightly horror.
yeah. And you
It's
also get like Green Mile also, which
Hmm.
yeah,
kind of falls into supernatural.
True.
yeah.
And Shawshank is also based on one of his short stories as
Yep.
well, I
And
Okay.
believe.
from the same book, Stand by Me is from.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Cool, guys. Well, we've got 5 films to get into. And Rachel, I know you haven't seen everything on the list, but that's okay. Chime in whenever you can. Um, we're going to go chronologically here. So on the set, on the Blu-ray set, we've got first up 1983. It is The Dead Zone, and this features an amazing performance from Christopher Walken, very young at the time, who gets into a car accident and awakens 5 years later with psychic abilities. He can see things before they happen, and he is basically working with the local sheriff to try and find out. I think there's a string of murders, and they want his help in tracking the killer down. Um, I don't really know much about Walken's earlier career, but this was a great example. I mean, I was blown away. Like, he's usually nowadays in like mostly supporting roles, so it was really refreshing to see him in a lead role, and he really did a great job with it. Um, yeah, Matt, what did you think?
I think the movie's phenomenal. I mean, you also have Martin Sheen,
Yeah.
Yes.
amazing in this film. And it's David Cronenberg, who's one of my top 5 favorite directors of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Doing Stephen King, and it's a great story that sadly mirrors our current political climate.
Mm.
Uh, it's basically like King just predicted this presidency,
Right.
but
Pretty
you
scary.
know, it's so well written, so well acted. This is probably, I mean, obviously, like Carrie, the film, is like the first like true like classic adaptation because it's like the first one, and it De Palma, you know, but it's like that, The Shining, and Dead Zone. It's like 3 films by like incredible directors that are just like so iconic.
Yeah.
Uh, the TV series they also made off of it is really good. If you haven't seen that,
Is that
uh,
Anthony Michael Hall?
yeah, Anthony Michael
Mhm.
Hall.
Okay.
And that went on for like 5 years or something. So
I would check that out for sure.
it's very interesting.
Nice.
But yeah, Walken. I mean, at that time, like his early career, he was so solid, and then he got into the whole being a character of, basically a character of that role.
Hmm.
Most of his like it became like a joke where like that was his character, was just like him imitating that for laughs.
Interesting. Huh, that's a good take. Rachel, are you a Walken fan?
I love Christopher Walken. And stories about working with Christopher Walken are some of my favorite things. I think I might have shared this on the show before, but there was an actor in a play with him that said that when they were rehearsing, that he would walk around with one of those giant dill pickles like in his pocket of his jacket. So there were several occasions when I was watching Dead Zone that I was wondering, I wonder if he's got, a pickle in the pocket of his jacket that he's.
Wait, why?
I got a pickle in my pocket.
Who knows? But he would just take it out, take a bite out of it, and put it back in his pocket.
Really likes pickles. Keeps them going.
Apparently.
I'm kind of because of that.
Yeah, no, Christopher Walken is quite an interesting actor. I love the fact that, he has also this background in dance, which you wouldn't expect from him, and he doesn't get to use it enough. I really wish that more people would cast him.
I was waiting.
That Fat Boy Slim video, man, was great to actually see him go full throttle,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even in like the remake of Hairspray, he's he's still got it. He's still a good dancer.
He definitely needs to do a musical, like a real like leading role musical. He needs to be the new Fred Astaire.
Yeah. Or they could if they do another remake of the Reefer Madness musical. He could probably play a role in that. Nice. He has that weird slant to his characters that I think would work well.
He had some good dance skills in Wayne's World 2, I remember.
Yes.
But he sadly did not dance in Batman Returns. So
yeah.
Anyway, but Rachel, sorry.
There was one other performance I was going to call out that I was not expecting. So one of my all-time favorite movies / miniseries is the Anna Green Gables miniseries. And Colleen Dewhurst plays a main role in it. And in this, she plays the killer's mother. And needless to say, she is the anti-Marilla in the Dead Zone. But she is really terrifying, I think, even maybe more so because of that, because I think of her in these very different sort of roles.
Yeah, the actors are it's a very strong cast in this, and I did like Martin Sheen. He was just tearing up the scenery, was chewing it up, and he was hilarious. I would have just seen a movie just with that character alone.
Well, a good precursor for him being on West Wing. Playing the president on West Wing.
Not as sleazy, but yeah.
No, definitely not.
Well, yeah, this is 1983, so it's one of Cronenberg's sort of earlier.
Yeah, it's like his fourth film, I think.
Okay. Interesting.
I did that one where I watched every Cronenberg film.
Oh, nice.
Which was a great journey.
Matt, you love to binge. You love it.
I go with the theme and
just run with it, man.
Just run with it. But yeah, Cronenberg was one of the first. I think might have been the first full binge I did.
Okay, good to know. Any of them on the cafe?
We did. We only did. We did Rabid. That's the only one we've done, actually. Surprisingly, one of his earlier zombie infection films of a zombie virus thing. Surprisingly, I haven't done a lot of them.
All right. Well, here you go. Here's your chance.
I've always actually had Dead Zone on the docket for this year.
Okay.
And that fell through, as did everything else. So I had it scheduled.
Okay. Well, you never know what the future will bring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Oh, sorry, Rach.
Sorry, real quick. Regarding Dead Zone, I also have to say that this is the kind of Stephen King that I really enjoy, where I do like his horror stuff. I do enjoy it. I enjoy Carrie, but I really like it when he delves more into just a supernatural story.
Yeah.
That's not straight up horror. It's more something that just has that element in there.
Yeah.
It's mostly grounded with a supernatural overtone. Yeah. I totally agree.
And when the supernatural is downplayed like that, I think it makes it even scarier.
Yeah.
It's all psychological, you know.
Yeah, and setting up those moral dilemmas of, if you know that something's going to happen, do you have a responsibility to try to stop it?
Mm, that's a good point.
And,
Yeah.
how far is too far when it comes to that? Because, I mean, literally it ends with him,
Yeah.
asking, if you could kill baby Hitler, would you kill baby Hitler? And it's like, well, might have other repercussions that you don't expect, but
Hmm. I think that's a running theme in like pretty much all of his work, or most of it anyway. So, and it really comes to the forefront with our next film, 1985's Silver Bullet, which this is actually one I used to watch. Oh, there you go. There you Perfect. Thank you. This is actually, I think, one of the first. I saw this when I was a kid. It was disturbing. It's one of the first Stephen King movies I've ever seen, actually, and it stars Corey Haim as a paralyzed boy in a small town. Who it's basically like the boy who cries wolf, literally.
Yeah.
No, no one really believes him, not even his drunk uncle, played by Gary Busey. And basically, people are picked off one by one by this werewolf that nobody seems to see except for this boy. And you know, it, I remember this film being a lot more entertaining. It still kind of holds up, but I was as a kid, I think I was more. It had more of an impact on me, and I thought Corey Haim. Even I just rewatched it today, and Haim really he hit it out of the park, as did Gary Busey, and I think their scenes together are perfect. They're so like down to earth, and you could just sense that they're like this is his uncle, and they have a great bond. I actually wouldn't have mind seeing more of that relationship and more of Gary Busey's, alcoholism and how that kind of pans out. But we got a pretty good, sort of action horror film in Silver Bullet. Yeah, it's a thrill ride. It's fun, and it's got some really good performances, especially from Haim and Busey. Um, Rachel, I don't think you saw this one, or did you see it?
no, but from what you're describing, I'm just picturing a remake of it with Finn Wolfhard as the kid
Oh,
and Bobby Moynihan playing his drunk uncle character from SNL.
I think Moynihan's a little too comedic. I don't know.
Yeah, he had a character called Drunk Uncle though, so
What about the guy from the sheriff from Stranger Things?
Oh yeah, David Harbour. He's
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
that'd be good.
I mean, he is essentially playing all the kids like drunk uncle.
yeah, pretty much.
Matt,
Yeah,
were you a fan of Silver Bullet?
me?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, like when I was younger, I definitely liked it a lot more. It's still something I enjoy. Last time I saw it, it's still a great film. I mean, yeah, it's Haim at the top of his game. I mean, him and Feldman, the stuff they put out for like that span of like 4 years
Yeah.
was like so perfect,
Yeah.
and then it all went to crap, and it sucks. And especially, I mean, yeah, we lost Haim. He fell on very, very hard times.
Yeah.
And but yeah, Busey, before he like completely fell off. It when you watch a movie like this or like the Buddy Holly story, or I mean a lot of his earlier works, it's so upsetting to think about where he is now and how off his rocker he is.
Yeah.
Like he was such a talented actor, and now he's a joke now. I mean, he even like,
Like, yeah, it's not his fault though. I mean, he was in an accident.
yeah, no, I mean it's true. But
yeah,
he was so good. Yeah, I mean, there's so many good performances in this movie as well. Everett McGill, who plays the Reverend Lowe, aka the Wolf.
yeah. Rachel hasn't seen it, so no spoilers.
But, yeah.
I figured we were getting into spoilers if we're
Yeah.
Yeah, are we?
I mean, it's like one of those things. Like for most Stephen King things, if you haven't heard a spoiler already, it's surprising. It's like his stories are so famous.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you avoid them? But yeah, he's incredible. Terry O'Quinn is in it as well.
Right.
I love Terry O'Quinn.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. And it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
but it's very dark.
Yeah.
It's definitely it's one of the ones that like I always like. I kind of wish they'd make an updated version of.
I think they
Like,
will. It's a
I'd
matter of
really
time.
like to see another go at it.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in actually reading the book because I still have not. Cycle of the Wolf. So, because I'm sure it probably, like most of King's books, delves more into the alcoholism.
Probably.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, and one of the things I absolutely love about King's writing is his character writing. You know, he'll spend 40 pages just talking about like one character, like before you even like get into any action, but it flies by. It goes by so quick.
Yeah.
His development is so great, and you really get to know the characters, and you know you kind of create this relationship with them, so that when they die or whatever happens, it's more of an impact. But I'm excited to actually get to that one because it's already something that like I'm really familiar with, the characters and whatever, and I can't wait to know more about them.
And it's a great horror movie for kids, like to
It
introduce
is.
kids to horror, because it's not overly violent. It's got violent moments,
Mhm.
but overall, it's kind of like a lighthearted horror film in a way.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's Corey Haim and Feldman. Man. It's like
Yeah.
between them, they had Stand By Me,
Lost
The Lost Boys, and
Lost
Gremlins.
Boys. Yeah. Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
those 4 films, like were like the horror movies of my childhood.
Right.
Those were like kids horror movies. Like,
Especially Gremlins, which pretty much started it all.
yeah.
The PG-13 rating. So that's pretty cool.
Oh no, yeah, of course, Friday the 13th Part 4.
Oh, that's yeah.
I was like, oh, how could I forget that one? But yeah.
But I think they'll do a remake. Are there talks for a remake? I haven't heard.
No, I haven't heard anything about them doing another, which is surprising because like right now I think in production is like 17 different Stephen King novels.
Oh,
I
really?
believe.
Short stories. It's there, and if you look at the Wikipedia page of any of his stories, it'll be like and it's always like the guys who did it are doing this also, like they're producing this. But yeah, like it's surprising. Like it's also surprising how many of his stories haven't become films yet. There's like a good maybe 10 stories that like no one's touched, and it's like weird.
I mean, I was on Amazon.
One's done 9 times.
I was checking on Amazon Prime, and yeah, he's got a ton of stuff out there. A lot of stuff, that's not even in this Blu-ray collection.
Oh yeah.
So it's pretty cool that the amount of
there's got to be at least 50 movies based off of
TV shows. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that new miniseries, The Outsider on HBO. That's also adapted.
Yeah, that's
from
one
him.
of his.
Yeah.
Yeah, a TV series. There's that. They did Under the Dome. Was based on one of his books. Well, now there's a Creep Show, which is a movie he wrote. And then I think one of his short stories is in it.
And
they made that a TV show.
Too. He had a role in the Creep Show.
Yeah, The Plant.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And then Haven is based on one of his books also.
Yeah, and Castle Rock, which is basically like Stephen King fan fiction.
The universe.
Right. Yeah, all of the stories take place in or around Castle Rock.
Yeah, and then Dead Zone, and that's just touching TV, and then like movies.
And I'm curious, the production company Castle Rock, is that Stephen King's company?
It's, I think Rob Reiner's. I think Rob Reiner's involved in that, but he did Misery and Stand By Me.
Right. Okay, so there's the connection there.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys. So we touched on a little bit of TV, but now we're going to get a whole lot of TV in 1994's The Stand. And this is a post-apocalyptic epic miniseries, clocks in at 6 hours. And it's sort of like, I guess you can compare it to like Lost meets The Walking Dead-ish. And, it's kind of a generic plot, end of the world pretty much, people kind of scrambling for survival, different groups of people meeting along their adventure. And what really was the main thing for me, which was the cast, which is an all-star cast, featuring but not limited to Gary Sinise, Molly Ringwald, Jamie Sheridan, Laura San Giacomo, and Rob Lowe, among many others. Those are just some of the bigger names. But
Matt Brewer, Cora Nemec.
Oh, nice. Max
TV
Headroom.
Parker Lewis. That was at the height of his career, man. He had just come off of Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
I know, and I wish Matt Frewer had more of a role in this.
And Trash Can Man is such a great role, you know.
Yes, he is. So this is a crazy miniseries, and it could have been a lot shorter. I think if it was half the length, it would have been a lot tighter, and I think the story would have flowed a little bit more. But I really enjoyed it. I remember this being on TV. I was 9 years old. Wasn't really my thing back then, but watching it now, I'm glad I did, because it's very entertaining. Like I said, it's all about characters. Has a very lost feel to it. You know, the survivors in this group trying to find out what the hell's going on. But yeah, Matt, did you watch this back in the day? You did?
Yep. I was in ninth grade. I remember vividly watching this. You know, I was a huge fan of King's. Already. I watched it when that was aired. I was in sixth grade. Mm-hmm. I watched that when it aired, and that's actually what got me to read his books. I read it and The Stand back then.
Cool.
So I watched The Stand when it came out. And I absolutely loved it. I thought the cast was great. They really filled in the roles well. Mm-hmm. It's like one of those things where it's like, looking back on it, I feel like the amount of time it took to present, and it's like, it is a little long, mm-hmm. and I think it's a screenplay. I think if it was, that's why I'm really hoping the new miniseries is done more like his writing, because it'll make the time go by quicker and better. It'll be better paced.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a lot they didn't do with the original miniseries that they just kind of I don't know if I don't even know. It's got a lot of weak moments.
Yeah.
But overall, I love it. It was fun.
I think Randall Flagg was underdeveloped. I think that was
they didn't do enough with Randall Flagg, and then
could have been a great villain, but he was kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
Rachel, did you see you didn't see The Stand?
I have not seen The Stand.
Okay.
I will say that as far as I feel like the TV miniseries has really made a resurgence in recent years. It made it the perfect time to bring back and do The Stand, especially with great adaptations and great new interpretations of work like the first season of Watchmen, which I actually hope will be the only season of Watchmen on HBO. I think it's also the perfect format because it won't have commercial breaks. They won't be having to build in for commercial breaks. It won't, because it's being made, I believe, for HBO Max. I don't know if it's going to air on HBO.
Stand By Me is CBS All Access.
Yeah. But I think that with the Stand mini series, I don't think that they're going to be as constrained by, the episode has to be exactly this long, or it has to be, this many episodes. They can go more with what serves the story as opposed
and they can
to
curse.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's the spinoff of The Good Wife.
The Good Fight.
The Good Fight.
Yes, I love The Good Fight.
I binged all of The Good Wife and then started watching Good Fight, and I'm like, man, they curse a lot on this show. Because it's on CBS All Access, all of a sudden it went to be like, oh my god, they said fuck 3 times.
Yep. It is an experience seeing Christine Baranski saying.
I
the
know,
F-word.
it's great. So yeah, there's so many fewer limits now.
Mhm. Yeah. But I am looking forward to the new stand after seeing the original because I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with the characters because
Mhm.
these characters are written really well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just excited to see the future of that universe. So, and it'll be a nice throwback. Hope with the state of a lot of TV shows these days, nostalgia is really all the craze. So I'm looking forward to feeling that '90s vibe with the new stand. So we'll see. All right, guys. So we're almost there. We've got two more. We've got the Pet Cemetery films. The first one, which came out in 1989, which focuses on a very wholesome family that moves to the country. And their property is right on top of a pet cemetery. It's down the road, down this hiking trail. And basically, this pet cemetery has supernatural powers that if you bury something in it, it will turn into a zombie, of course. And yeah, you know what? I watched Pet Cemetery. I watched Pet Cemetery 2 in 1992, and I thought the second one was more entertaining than the first, in my opinion. I don't know about you guys. I just thought it was tighter. It had a better story, and it had Edward Furlong, so that was good. The first one, I couldn't really sympathize with any of the characters. I liked Fred Gwynn as the neighborly
Oh, it's
farmer.
great.
He was the highlight, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
I know this film has a strong cult following, but I'm not part of that cult. I don't know about you guys, but I think the first one kind of fell flat for me. Part two.
Well, you're definitely not alone in thinking that. A lot of
Okay.
critics at the time did not like it. It got extremely mixed to negative reviews, but
Okay.
the audience for it, the people that went to go see it, apparently liked it enough that it was, I believe, a financial success, which was probably why it got a sequel. If
Yeah.
people
You
hadn't
wouldn't have
shown
got
up,
a
it wouldn't
sequel
have.
if it wasn't financially
Sure.
successful.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I wasn't involved. I mean, I tried to like it, but it was just kind of messy, and the story kind of wandered in different directions, and it lost me. Matt, what did you think?
I mean, it's a fine movie. I like it. I don't love it. You know, it's an interesting. I mean, it's like probably one of the most like, I guess, generic storylines that he's really done.
Mhm.
Where it's just
I
like,
mean, it's the monkey's paw. Like,
yeah,
that's what it is.
exactly. Where it's like, oh, like I could bury my dead kid here. It's like, but the cat came back bad. Well, it's the fact that people keep doing it is like one of those things where you're like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah.
And like how the neighbors kind of like, don't do it, but do it. And it's like,
Yeah.
like he's kind of a dick. Like when you think about his whole like reasoning, it's the ground's bad, but yeah, we'll go for it.
Maybe it'll work this time.
Like yeah, it didn't work for my wife. It didn't work for me. But but yeah, Fred Gwynn. I mean, I fucking love.
He's great.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, yeah, the cast for this movie doesn't. Zelda is terrifying as all hell. Probably one of the most terrifying things in any Stephen King movie is the sister. But yeah, I mean, it's an okay movie.
Yeah.
I don't have an attachment to it. It came out. I was a little too young to see it in the theater. I watched it. I didn't see it for a number of years, and yeah, it's like I don't know. There's so many King movies that like really got me the first time. Like even Christine, John Carpenter. I mean, Cujo. Carrie Shining. A lot of those like Firestarter. There's so many that like as a child I loved. This one I was like a preteen when I saw it, and I was like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've rewatched it a couple times.
it's also really nihilistic. Like, it's really tough to get involved in the story of it because you kind of see how it's going and it's all going to end badly and that there's no possible way. So it's like you end up kind of distancing yourself as a viewer right off the bat from these characters. You don't try to connect too much with them because what's the point?
They don't care about us, so why should we care about them?
Yeah.
And yeah, well, I did kind of like young Miko Hughes. He played the young boy Gage in the first.
Gage.
Yeah, very.
He was in a lot of stuff at that time.
Yeah,
He's just a creepy looking kid.
yeah.
I mean, he's a really fine actor because he always he always did well. But God, what a creepy little kid.
He was acting since I think age 2, or at least commercials at 2.
Oh yeah, and in Pet Sematary, he's what, like 4?
Yeah, he's very young.
But yeah, the weirdest thing is the kid that played Gage in the remake almost looks identical to him. It was like, wow, they find a kid that looked like that kid?
That's disturbing. Yeah.
It's weird. At first I was like, is that kid still that young?
Nice.
Are we going to discuss the differences between the two movies, or is that too spoiler?
Oh no. I'm debating now. Spoilers are.
Everyone's seen them.
I think if anyone's watching this right now, then they want spoilers. So
yeah, everyone's seen.
What the hell?
One or the other.
I thought the newest Pet Sematary, which came out last year, was phenomenally better than the original. I thought Jason Clarke. It was the Jason Clarke show, and he's a great actor. He was put to perfect use here as the troubled dad. This movie was a little scarier, in my opinion. It wasn't as goofy. The scares were more genuine. The acting was better. And I was more invested in the story this time around. I thought Pet Sematary, this might be a notch above Pet Sematary 2 for me, but still, the remake, it's a step up for sure. So
yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I saw it. I enjoyed it. I mean, it's still, it's still the same story. I mean, Jason Clarke is great. John Lithgow, I absolutely adore, and I was very nervous going into it because Fred Gwynne is my favorite part of the original.
Yeah,
and just phenomenal. And Lithgow did great with what he had.
Yeah, he didn't have much to do, honestly, which was unfortunate for me.
Yeah, and it was like weird because I was like, I went in afraid that I was like, almost like I wasn't going to like a John Lithgow performance, which I don't think would have happened. But then I was left like, oh, I really wish they gave him more to do.
Yeah. He was really just an imitation of Gwynn's persona.
And they gave him less to do than Gwynn had to do in the original. It was kind of like in this, he was kind of like a voice in his head almost, whereas like they utilized him as like a conscience. Like,
yeah, he was just kind of there, kind of mumbling around the whole movie.
Yeah.
I think it might have been the same exact wardrobe from
I think it was.
Yeah, they're about the same size.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Rachel, what did you think? I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the comparisons.
Yeah. So I think I'm probably the most negative out of the whole group about this movie. I think I'd maybe give it like a C- if I were to give it like a letter grade. I don't know. The changes to the ending, I see what they were going for, but I think that they were trying a bit too hard to make it super dark with the whole thing of, well, at least we're all undead together. We can be a family again. It's like,
it's like too dark and too campy at the same time.
Yeah.
With the cat up on the windshield.
We want to be on. We don't want to be on that line. We don't even want that line to exist.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But
it's also tough for me to watch because I love my pets. I love my pets, and I don't want to think about that stuff. So I turn into a pet parent.
It's like when I watch something like that, I'm like, I love my kids, and I don't want to, it's like it is funny, like watching this as a parent, watching the kid get hit by a car, like by a semi truck, is like the most terror, and it's like it makes you like. Like every time I see, like I'm just like, like oh my god, a truck's coming. It's absolutely terrifying, and it's like, I mean, I also the fact that they switched the kids' roles.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was weird.
But it was unnecessary. I didn't see the point of that. Yeah.
I think when the movie was first coming out, I think they said the reason why they wanted to change it was that as a young kid, there's only so much physically that he can do, and that a girl of that age, like a child of that age, would be a lot more physically, like that she could do more damage. And I agree with that. I don't disagree.
Sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, he could have gone even further with that then, if that's really what you wanted to go for.
Right, because Ellie is what, about 9?
9 or so,
and
yeah.
Gage is like 2 or 3. So I guess a 9-year-old can inflict more damage. I don't know.
And they're more used to them.
Like my question is,
they love her more. No, I'm just kidding.
if they're really gonna like move there and be in that house, and that they're like, this is our life now, why didn't they put up a fence by the road?
And because it's like there's so many moments leading up to it where you're just like, oh, that's gonna be a problem. It's like there's like all the like jump scares of like, that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah. And speaking of jump scares, I don't know if Matt, did you see Pet Sematary 2?
I haven't seen that in probably since it came out.
Okay, because the jump scares are there aplenty, and it's a fun ride in my opinion. But,
yeah, I'll revisit it soon.
Yes, I know you will.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to watch every Children of the Corn sequel before I get there.
Well, that kind of
like 16 of them.
Well, that kind of leads to my next thing. So we went through the whole Blu-ray set. What are some other Stephen King movies that kind of stand out for you? Like what's your go-to, Rachel?
I mean, of course, the It remakes, I think, were both good. I mean, the part 1 I feel like was stronger than part 2, but they were both really enjoyable in my mind. I mean, I mentioned The Mist before, which is, I don't think it's a wonderful movie. I don't think I can go back and rewatch it. It's just, that ending is so hard to get past. Yeah. It's a great change to the ending, but I mean, especially now with everything going on this year, it's like, that's the last movie that I can watch right now.
When it came out, the ending didn't really sit well with me. I understand it and I get it, but it's just like it's super heavy, and the movie's incredible. I mean, Frank Darabont has done amazing things with King's work. He did also Green Mile and Shawshank. So
and Shawshank is so good. I mean,
it's one of those like movies that's the best movie that nobody knows is a Stephen King movie.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm curious. I think I saw in one of them. I don't know which one. I saw in one of the traffic signs said Derry.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
In Pet Sematary.
That's in Pet Sematary.
Cemetery? Yeah. So that was a nice little nod.
Yeah, they have that. Like, that's another thing I love about King's work is the shared universe. Like Castle Rock, Derry. There's a few like cities that are in all of them, towns that are in all of them. Salem's Lot's mentioned a whole bunch. Jerusalem's Lot in his works. Characters come back in different things. Randall Flagg is the main villain of Dark Tower.
Oh, really? Does he look anything like the
Well,
19?
I don't know because it's a book, dude.
Oh.
I haven't seen the movie. I hear it's garbage.
I just realized I actually don't know if Carrie was my first introduction to King, because I know that right around the time that I read Carrie, I also read Misery. And I can't remember if Misery's the one that led me to Carrie or Carrie's the one that led me to Misery. But obviously the movie adaptation is probably one of the best adaptations.
Oh yeah, Rob Reiner also did Stand By Me, so it's like, his work with King is fantastic. And speaking of Stand By Me, another great connection is that Ace, played by Kiefer Sutherland in Stand By Me, his character is also one of the main characters in Needful Things. Like all of his characters go, in Carrie, the gas station that burns down is owned by Teddy Duchamp, who is Corey Feldman's character in Stand By Me.
Wow.
So it's a whole shared universe, which I absolutely love, which is why they can do something like Castle Rock and like have this like shared universe. And that I just love that aspect of his work. As far as other like favorites, I would say Cat's Eye.
Okay.
It's
yeah.
that Firestarter, both Drew Barrymore's in both of those.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, there's so many. As of recent works, I mean, the It ones were pretty good. I'm trying to think what else lately. No, maybe that I would. Yeah, I don't know.
Now,
but
with Castle Rock, does that connect everything kind of? It's more like blatant, like the connections. Do they like bring it to the forefront?
Yes. Yeah.
That's cool. I need to get into that.
Yeah, and like Kathy Bates' character from Misery is like a character in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there was that they did a lot of mention of Salem's Lot in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's kind of like meant to be like this kind of like connection.
Yeah.
That's cool. Which, if anything, it makes me wish that in Pet Sematary in the remake, if they were going to throw in the reference to Derry, that they went further with the connections. If you're gonna have that little throwaway, maybe like do a couple other things that ties it into that world.
Yeah.
Like just having that one throwaway just kind of felt like, oh.
Yeah. I want more Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's one I remember from my childhood. The Langoliers. Remember this from 1995. Yes. I was 10, and this was on ABC, and I think Bronson Pinchot was in it. He had a role. This was a weird one, but it stuck with me even to this day. To 35 years of age, I remember this movie, and
that I mean, in that time period, they were coming out with King miniseries like twice a year. It was like that, and was it Storm of the Century and Rose Red, and I just like I was between high school and like first graduated. I just felt like they just had so many just coming out.
Yeah.
Most of them I actually still have never seen, surprisingly. I guess at the time I just wasn't interested in watching the miniseries. Yeah. But
and I mean, it was also the whole like event miniseries that it's like you have to tune in for this, and I always remember that the Stephen King ones would have that viewer discretion advised at the beginning, like during like all of the broadcasts and during all the ads for it, which always scared me off as a kid, which is why I haven't seen a lot of them.
And then right before the second half, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Derry.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So, any final thoughts regarding the Master of Horror, Mr. King, Rachel?
I will recommend that any writers out there who are interested in Stephen King's process, read his book on writing. It is great. It is very good. It's not only a good book on writing, it's a good memoir about his early life. So give it a read. It's not too long of a book. You can knock it out.
Cool. Matt, sir?
Just gonna be watching and reading all of his stuff for probably the next decade because there's so much of it.
Yeah.
I'm 3.5 books in right now. Only like 40 more to go, and I'm gonna, I'll be enjoying them, I'm sure. And I guess a happy birthday to him. It's coming up. So.
Yeah.
1 week from today. And yeah, I'm definitely going to start watching a whole lot more of Mr. King's works, probably get into some of his books too at some point. I've seen a bunch of his movies this past weekend, and every time he surprises me. Like he entertains, he shocks, there's humor, and the man knows how to write. And I hope he does it for much longer, many more years to come. So happy birthday to him. And lastly, guys, any plugs? Rachel, anything you want to, any shout out?
Well, you can always find me over on Twitter at Rachel E. Kolb, or my theater writings, which are not very much at late since New York Theater is still closed, but that's at Ludus NYC. And you can vote for my dog Dobby to be America's favorite pet. His Instagram is Dobby the House Doggo.
Cool. Check that out, guys. Vote. Mr. Roren, any shout outs, any plugs?
For the time being, we're still doing Cult Cafe Home Edition on the Cult Cafe Not So Secret Society Facebook page. And this weekend, we're doing Scream and Scream Again, a 1970 horror classic starring Vincent Price and Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. All three of the holy trinity of 70s horror in one film. And it's a whole lot of fun.
And Star Wars, right? Cushing and Lee were in Star Wars.
Yes.
Was there a third there that I'm missing?
There
is another movie that all three of them are in.
Okay.
I can't remember what it's called right now. But there's only two that all three are in. I think Cushing and Lee are in a few, and I think Price and Lee are in a few together.
Okay.
But this one you get all three, and three for the price of one, and it's a classic.
There you go.
So we
all
do
right,
that
guys.
Saturdays at 9:50.
There you go. Cult Cafe, guys. Rachel, Matt, thank you so much, guys. This was amazing as always. It's like reinvigorated my passion for wanting to discover all things Stephen King. So this is awesome. And I want to thank everyone watching at home and on your devices. And also, if you're on YouTube now, just hit subscribe, please. Do your part. And guys, thank you for watching. I'm Randy Unger, and this has been Unger the Radar. See you next time, guys. Take care.